Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gaelic Lives podcast. We're a day late this week with the show, but we're going to look back at some of the big games that were played across the province at the weekend, and there were some huge ones. Starting with the hurling mall, I know you were at the two senior hurling semi-finals, and first of all, St John's had a big win over Setanta. We're going to hear from their manager, Gerard Cunningham, in a bit, but sort of round up this one for us. Was it as one-sided as the scoreline suggests?
Probably not over the course of it, Sean. I would have to say, like after half time, Setanta had brought it back to 2 points. Gerard Gilmore, as he always has been for club and county, very accurate. The story, I suppose, was Setanta came in with the 11-week break with no competitive hurling. As underdogs, their first ever Ulster senior game. And then you've got St John's coming in of the high of, making that breakthrough in Antrim. Setanta actually got the first two scores, Sean, and then Connor Johnson got a goal in the 4th minute. He just cut inside, finished low to the net. By halftime, I think they were 110 to 8 points up. Then it became maybe a 2 or 3 point game, and it all changed with Connor Johnson's second goal, made by Oisin McManus, who I think scored 12 points. McManus did the work, and obviously Connor Johnson applied the finish. And the third goal was quite a lucky one. Goalkeeper Kevin Campbell was just blocked on the line. The ball deflected over, but they would have been expected to win the game. They started without Kieran Johnson, who it seemed to be a precaution. They were maybe hoping that they would get through and that he would be in better shape for a final if they got there. But I suppose Setanta have made that breakthrough. It's up to now what can they do next year. But for St John's, they've won an Ulster title once in 1973, and they're now into the final. But they have been the story in Antrim and continue to be. And for Setanta, it's sort of a case of can they build on it.
So as mentioned, you caught up with Gerard Cunningham, St John's manager, after the game. So we're going to hear from Gerard now, and then we'll come back and discuss the Sleacht Néill and Portaferry result.
Gerard, just booked your spot in an Ulster final. What's the thoughts?
Delighted. It was always going to be a tough semi-finals. They're always tough. We knew coming in here that this Setanta team were always going to put it up to us. They were always going to be physical, hanging off us. So our whole plan was just we expected that in the first half, and hopefully at the start of the second half, our hurling would start to take over, which you've seen it did. So really, really super. Delighted to be in an Ulster final.
Your first goal, Connor Johnson, 4 minutes in, but the second goal was probably a big score in terms of the way the game finished.
It was again because they stayed with us. We gave away a few frees, and Gerard didn't miss much today, so they stayed in with the frees, and the goal, as you say, came at a very important time, and again kicked us on a wee bit more, but to give us that wee injection that we needed just to kick on, and I suppose up the ante for our hurling. So it was a very important score.
How do you switch between euphoria of winning the title to coming into a game that you obviously have to win to get into another final? Like, it's new territory.
Yeah, it was tough, to be fair, because there was also a 4-week gap, which is long enough.
You're not used to?
No, and the 2 weeks is normally perfect because you can recover for a few days, kick into training, and then start to ease up. But the 4 weeks was different, so we had to sit down properly as a management team and really plan those 4 weeks of when we were recovering, when we were up in the ante, and when we were taking the foot off the pedal. So coming from the county final, it was good to have that 4 weeks, obviously, to get the lads' heads in the right place and get them refocused. But I suppose the big thing was really, really timing it so that we were coming in here peaking and fresh.
Was Kieran Johnson close to playing?
He was.
I know he is listed, but is it a precaution or did something happen in the warm-up?
No, he was close. It was just precaution. We thought we would take a risk on him, hoping that we would get over the line here, and we're keeping so he can be 100% the next day. And the same as with Oisín O'Doherty as well. He was in the same boat.
And finally, as we speak here, it's Saturday night. We don't know if it's Portaferry or Sleacht Néill, but what's the sort of thoughts going ahead into the next couple of weeks?
I suppose we'll go down and we'll watch that tomorrow to see who we're going to plan, or who our plan is going to be to face. Two very good teams, two very, again, with physical, good hurling teams. So both will pose different problems for us. But listen, we can only start planning for that after the game tomorrow. But I suppose the next few days again is just recovery, and we'll kick back on it on Monday night back in the gym to get the lads ready for an Ulster final.
So, as we know, it's Sleacht Néill who St John's face in the Ulster final, and Mal, you were in the athletic grounds on Sunday, watching their game against Portaferry, a repeat of last year's final. So give us a roundup of how this game went.
Definitely not a repeat in the game. It wasn't nowhere near as exciting. It was very stop-start. Last year's game, obviously, Portaferry just rampant, and then it was a comeback. This one here, it was point for point. They were level 6 times in the first 20 minutes, and then Dahi Sands got a goal. He had 1-2 to his name, and that put them ahead. But Sleacht Néill got 4 out of the next 5 points before half time, and that was crucial. They moved Finn McEldowney across onto Dahi Sands, which is another important move. But collectively, they just got to grips with the game. Brenton Rodgers, Shane McGuigan, Cormac O'Doherty were exceptional. Chrissy McCaig as a target man up front, with Cormac O'Doherty playing those passes. So that was a general Sleacht Néill pattern. After half time, it sort of continued the same sort of point for point element of it. You got the feeling Sleacht Néill were in control of it as much as they weren't able to pull away. But it was Gerard Bradley's goal. I think it was his first score of the season. I'm not sure if it's his first championship minutes of the season. I'm not too sure, but he got the finish 5 minutes to go, and it gave a wee bit of a cushion. But that's them into a final, and they'll have to improve on that. And I suppose St John's will be the same, but that's a debate for another day, Sean. It's a novel final. Sleacht Néill's final number 11 for them. 5 wins, 5 defeats. And then the Johnnies in first time since 73. So Sleacht Néill will be happy to get the job done. Cormac O'Doherty very much the man pulling the strings.
Yeah, brilliant final to look forward to. And Mal, as I mentioned, you were in the athletic grounds and you caught up with Oisín O'Doherty after the game. So we're going to hear from Oisín now before we move on to the rest of the action.
Oisín, you're through to another final. Was that very much the battle on the pitch that looked off it?
It definitely was. We knew what Portaferry was going to throw at us after last year. It took us to have a 10-minute spell where we bagged 2-9 or something, I think, out of 12 shooting chances to turn them over. The aggression that they bring to the tackle, you can see it the other day. The hits between both teams was brilliant to be a part of, and the battle was mighty. Thankfully we get through it, and a game like that'll stand to us whenever we get through for 2 weeks' time to play St John's.
Level 6 times, and then Portaferry got the goal. I think you hit 4 of the next 5 points going in at half time. It was probably significant, I would imagine.
Yeah, actually, they had a long range free from down and around their own half back line, and Cormac actually stood beside him in the line, and he remarked, he says, "Look, we're a point up here, and I've given away a goal." He says, "So we're in a good place." And that's what was go through. Straight away, he had owned up to it. He had owned up that it was his mistake. That just shows you the character in this team from everybody. That somebody like that there can stand up and say, "It's my fault that we're in that position," and he dug us out. He dug us out. Shane McGuigan again, the same as last year. Shane was immense today. Brenton Rodgers. And then you look to the younger boys. Finn went across on the Dahi Sands, immense. Conor McAllister, immense. Rory O'Meara, 20 years of age. Cahill back in it again today. It's brilliant to be a part of it. I'm one of the older men now, and the energy that these boys give us is mighty, and I can't wait for 2 weeks now. I'm buzzing for 2 weeks again already. When
you're standing in there in goals and it's sort of ebbing and flowing, what changed in the second half for you? Was Jerry's goal significant, or was there something else?
I think that the goal obviously gave us a wee bit of breathing room. It was nip and tuck. We got a point up. We could never really get that 2 and 3 points on a bounce to get us ahead. The goal gave us that wee bit of breathing room, and we were fit to maybe create a +1 at the back. But out there in that second half, every time the balls come down the field, I was standing there, and I've been doing goals for 15 years at this level, and I'm standing just hoping it doesn't get as far as me. Just the nerves that everybody has out there playing. It's great to be a part of it, but at the same time, one mistake from anybody in the field can be very costly, and I'm just glad that if the players around us that I do to drive us on. That's brilliant to be a part of, and I say I'm buzzing for 2 weeks. I can't wait to get back out, hopefully back down here again. This is like a second home to us boys the last 10 years in the club, and I hope it's back down here again because I love the place. I have great memories of it, and I say I just can't wait to get out in the field again. Another 2 weeks training with these lads, great to be at this time of the year.
In a game like that there, when there's pressure on, is concentration the magic word, or is there something else? Because especially in your position where you and the men in front of you have to be on it all the time, or is there something more important than that?
Definitely concentration has to be A1. It's very easy to get distracted there. For myself, people, young boys behind the goals, the umpires, sometimes they'll be saying something about a tackle or something. You can hear them in the radio, and it is very easy to get distracted, but the only thing is we keep talking about communication, and if I keep focused on my communication to the players out the field, it keeps me focused. So it does. So that's one big thing that I've tried to improve on. If I keep my communication up, it keeps me focused on the game.
So there were some other big hurling games from the weekend as well. The intermediate semi-finals took place and Lisbon just edged out Castleblaney by a point 114 to 210. Thomas Hughes got a goal for Blaney in the opening few minutes, but Lisbon led 0-7 to 1-1 at half time. Both sides hit the net in the second half, with Niall Garland hitting the net for Castleblaney while Adam McShea was on target for Lisbon on a late rally from Castleblaney made Lisbon sweat, but the Fermanagh champions held on to win by a point. Rogue had the same margin of victory over Glenariff in their other semi-final, and Rogue hit 310 in the second half to win this one. Dermot Begley, Dean Rafferty and Aidan Woods all hit the net, while Shawnee McIntosh scored 1-4 for Glenariff and Colin Ward scored 1-2. The junior hurling final took place the weekend too, and Burt beat Lavey by 1 point. So brilliant action in that one. Burt were 6 down midway through the first half and received a red card just before half time, but they fought back to force extra time, and it was Faker Gill who scored the winner, with Liam McKinney hitting 0-10 and Connor Garland chipping in with 0-6 as well. So there was some ladies action over the weekend too, and we have a new ladies Ulster champion with Money Glass defeating Urgel Kieran quite convincingly, Niall, and this was a brilliant win for Money Glass.
Yeah, probably one that's been a few years in the making. They won their fifth Antrim title in a row. They've been in an Ulster final a few years ago. They overcame the back-to-back champions Clan Éire in the semi-finals. So it looked like the pieces were in place for Money Glass to go and win an Ulster title, and that's the way it turned out. Though probably surprisingly comfortably in the end up. They got 3 goals in the first half. They missed a penalty down the other end, which didn't help their cause. And I suppose that lead that built up at half time laid the platform for their victory. It wasn't at the game. I was chatting to a colleague who was at the game, and I said, was the scoreline reflective of how it went? It was 3-10 and 0-6. And he's a troll fellow like myself. He said Errigal actually played quite well, which is probably a testimony to how strong Money Glass are, that they won and so much to spare in the scoreboard. A brilliant achievement. They've won 5 Antrim minor titles in a row as well, so the conveyor belt is rolling, and they've become only the 12th team to win the Ulster Senior Ladies Final, so they're an esteemed company, and well done to them.
And there were 2 other ladies' finals at the weekend as well. Knockbride were crowned intermediate champions. They beat Bridget O'Neill's 3-13 to 1-6. Abby Connor was the main player for Knockbride. She scored 1-6, while Rebecca Davey and Sarah McCabe also grabbed goals for Cavan Gales. They were crowned junior champions. They beat Killivan Sarsfields 4-12 to 0-9. Katie O'Mara, Sarah Clark and Katie Leddy got the goals for the Cavan ladies. So that's all from the ladies. On to the Camogie then, and Mal mentioned again you were in the athletic grounds at the weekend, and obviously you got to witness the Camogie senior Camogie final, and the junior final was on at the weekend too. So give us a roundup of all the Camogie action before we hear from Emma McFadden of Loughgiel.
Loughgiel, it was a very tight game, I would have to say. Like last year when they met, Loughgiel hit 4 second half goals to pull away. This time it was very much like there was a long range free from Paula O'Hagan, who was touched to the net, and they'll actually put Clonduff into the lead. But Ian Rashi McCormick at the end of a brilliant team move, I would have to say, through the middle, the back of the net, and it just nearly. It was exactly what Loughgiel needed, because it just conceded. I think it might even have been in the next minute, Sean. That's how quickly it came. I suppose the talking point before half time, to see McNaughton was shown a red card. I didn't see it at the time, and when you look back at the footage, you can't really see what it was for. But that left Loughgiel in a sticky spot, although they did manage to go in a point up at half time. But Lucia had sort of been converted from a forward into what looked like a playmaking defender, so she was obviously playing a very important role. But as the game materialised, Loughgiel just got a handle on it. they made a substitution at half-time. They brought on Anna Connolly, and she had a big impact in the game. But collectively, they just seemed to up it that bit more. Like Clonduff in the first half, where they were aggressive, they were hungry, they were accurate, they were all the things that you needed to be. But Katie McKillop got the second goal late on. But to say Roisin McCormick, they just kept the scoreboard ticking without really pulling away. But again, it's a fourth Ulster title in a row. Amazing level of consistency, and they go forward. I think they play the Munster champions. That's undecided yet who that is, but at least now they have 2 weeks to process what they've done, get a look at St Finbarrs or De La Salle, and hopefully they can go on and make that step. They've been knocking that All-Ireland door. We've said it a good few times, so all the best to them as they step forward. On Saturday, was it? I just watched this one on the live stream. It was Eglish and Crossmaglen in the intermediate, and Crossmaglen got 2 early goals. They were 2-5 to 5 points up at a stage. Eglish got the 2 first half goals. Kate Dane Gallagher and Captain Regan Fay, but Crossmaglen were fairly, they between Tina O'Reilly, Lauren McConville, Kelly Shields, I think they maybe scored 4 or 5 points each. They were either a point behind or level at half time. And that was just the story of the game. But as it went into stoppage time, Crossmaglen were 1 up, 62 minutes gone. You're thinking, like we chatted on Friday just a bit, Sean, about the fact they'd got 1 over in Greenmore. Were they going to go a step further? And Regan Fay's ball dropped in. They didn't clear it. Cross didn't clear it. And Gemma Daly, who didn't start the game, she was listed as 11. She put the ball over the bar, and here we go again. For a replay. As it stands, I'm not sure when or where that replay is. I believe it's this weekend, but it's all to play for once again.
And as I mentioned, Mal, you spoke to Emma McFadden from Loughgiel after the Ulster Senior Camogie finals, so we'll hear from Emma now, and we'll come back with a wee bit of the football chat from the weekend too.
What's the first thoughts? Another Ulster title. I'm sure you're over the moon.
Yeah, that was a tough one. We always knew it was going to be. So no, delighted to get over the line, and just at this time of year you want to go as far as you can, and you never want it to end. So no, delighted. We dug hard, so it'll stand to us hopefully next day.
I suppose the obvious question is you're down a player in a half time, and I think there's only a point in it. A massive second half performance.
Yeah.
What was half time like? Was it a turnaround, or was it a calming of the Jets or whatever? Because the second half was did the job.
Yeah, it was just no panic, don't panic. We've worked hard, we've done the work, so just play the ball wide, spread it, take out of that free player that they were going to have. We always knew they were going to have that player back, so just kind of regroup and do the basics. We needed to go back to do the basics right. That's maybe something we didn't do well enough in the first half, was the basics. So just back to basics, get them right, and progress from there.
And in terms of that second half performance, where does it sit in terms of the overall season? Performance wise, I mean?
I don't even know, it's a bit of a blur at the minute, but it was probably fair enough, good, honest half out of us, Paddy dig deep, Paddy just work well as a team. It takes a lot of talking whenever there's a spare player, so
just in terms of organising
which wing to hit, if there's a two-man ball, you've kind of got a wee look first to know where that man is, so or the woman. So I'd say hopefully it'll stand to us that second half.
And in terms of the overall group, a few have come in to win their first medal this year. Majority of these have been for a while, so there's an unbelievable level of consistency, experience. Camogie, call it whatever you want, in that group. It must be great on the inside.
There is such a range. I'm obviously one of the older ones that have been there, but it's great. You see that Marie Laverty there coming in, and there's a few come in every year, and they just step up, and it's great because they don't have the nerves, we've just, as I say, it's been building for years. I don't know, we just want to go as far as we can, really.
Munster champions St Finbarrs or De La Salle, I'm not sure if you even know that or whatever, but that's not for now, but for someday in the next few weeks or whatever.
Yeah. We never look too far ahead. That's one thing that we don't do. It is one game at a time, really, because I suppose before our run of 12, we were looking ahead. We were beat that year, and that's we know not to do that. But I think that's maybe next week, that game. So
it's not much time for.
No, they'll have 1 week in between it and the next game. But the year that we got to Crook, we had only 1 week in between some of the games as well. So it builds momentum as well. Too much of a rest can be a lot, but no.
And finally, Camogie in the parish is fanatical as ever. I was down meeting Bobby at his wee museum a while back. He took me down to the cafe, and everybody's talking about Camogie and hurling at that stage. So it's just never changes, does it?
No, and I do love giving people a day out. We all do. We just love to see the flags and all up, and just training under the lights. It's great to see it. Big jump for them coming here today and all, but they will enjoy the day out, and there's another day out for them now too.
So another day out for Loughgiel coming in the coming days and weeks. Just before we head to our highlights, now there was junior semi-final junior championship action in the football championship. So tell us who's going to be in the junior final this year.
Yeah, it's also Emma McFadden and Clogher basically. They're not quite neighbours, but they're not far off it. Emma McFadden obviously in the Throne border, and Clogher not too far away. Clogher had a very tough battle against Dona. They came through after extra time. One stage they were 10-3 up, so it looked like they were comfortable enough. But there's a crazy final few minutes where either team could have won it, and obviously Dona came back into it to get to that point, and then Clogher pulled away again in extra time. The thing about that is there's a 1 week turnaround, so there's two ways of looking at it. They did a really good game, but then obviously they went to extra time, so I suppose time will tell whether or not took anything out of them. Waiting on the other side is the Emma Vale side, who in the final end up had a comfortable enough against Munster Connacht. They certainly weren't at the best in the first half, and their opponents actually went ahead early in the second half, but after that it was all one-way traffic. So it sets up a good junior final. Both Throne and Monaghan teams have a very good record in competition down the years, so it's probably no great surprise if the Clogher and Emma Vale have come through it. It should be a great match. It's at Sleacht on Saturday at 1 o'clock, so it'll be very interesting to see it come through.
Yeah, probably the two favourites for the competition, probably before a ball was kicked. So we're going to finish with our highlights as we usually do, and our player of the week. Mal, you've went with Roisin McCormick. You did speak about her earlier on when you were rounding up the Loughgiel game, but tell us why you picked her.
I found it difficult between her and Conor Gartlin, but it's just the fact that whenever Loughgiel were in the mix early on, her goal was crucial, and a tally of 110 is significant in what was a real battle of a final, and they needed her, and she just keeps delivering all the time, Sean.
And you went for Conor Gartlin from Burt?
It was a brilliant Ulster Junior final. Burt came from behind the edge lava after extra time, and Conor was player of the match. She had a few really, really brilliant long range scores and showed a lot of leadership, and it's my cousin as well, so I had to give him a shout out. But the reading around it seems like a fair enough shout, to be honest. Sean.
And I went with Abby Connor from Knockbride, as I mentioned with the ladies roundup. She scored 1-6 in their Ulster final win, so she's my player of the week. My result of the week was Lisbon against Castleblaney, just because these two teams are so evenly matched. They're in the competition usually every year, so there isn't usually a lot to split them. So I just give obviously Lisbon just leaves that out, so they're my result of the week. Now you went with Sleacht Néill's win over Portaferry.
Yeah, I mean there was a couple of teams that could obviously chosen a lot of very high profile games on at the minute, but I suppose the Ulster Senior Championship is always a bit of a 3-horse race really between the Derry, Antrim and Down teams, and that's no disrespect to St Antha, who gave a great account of themselves against St John's, but I suppose it was a repeat of a blockbuster tie last year, and once again Sleacht Néill came through a big battle, so fair play to them.
And Mal, you went with Moneyglass's win over Kilkieran as your result of the week.
A brilliant result. I spoke to Kathy Keary a few weeks ago before they played Clonairon, and that was the third time to try and beat them, and they did. But as Niall touched on, with Errigal playing so well, but for Moneyglass to be emphatic winners, the fact they've won the 5 minor championships in a row. Kathy herself coaches the minors. It's got the feel of a story that's nowhere near the final chapter down in Moneyglass, and the scenes of the cup coming home, the lorry, the fireworks. It's just the stuff of dreams, and they've now got a load of heroes to look up to. So we'll have to keep an eye to see, can Moneyglass do what a lot of the other clubs have do and form a real dynasty now. So fair play to ever be involved, and I think they play Kilmacud Crooks now in All Ireland. So best wishes to them.
Well, I picked that as my shock of the week. Not a shock that Moneyglass won it, but just the margin of victory, I suppose, was a bit of a shock. Your shock of the week, Mal, you picked the Bellaghy's win over Four Masters. They had a really good comeback in the Paul McGuire Cup competition.
Yeah, the shock's a difficult one to pick, Sean, because you're obviously dealing with the county champions now. But Bellaghy were 6 points down at half time. They were 6 points down again at a stage during the second half, and they actually were only level 2-10 each with 10 minutes to go. Man of the match, Jarlath McCartney, with the second goal for Bellaghy. And Sean, the fact that Four Masters are such a force at underage level, and obviously Derry under 16 champions are pretty strong, but to come back from being so far behind as an underage team speaks volumes, and fair play to them. I think they play Maherclune now in the next round.
On Score of the Week, Mal, on Nell, you both picked Gemma Daly from English. So, Nell, tell us why this was the Score of the Week.
Basically, its overall importance. I think it was literally a last second point to bring the Ulster Intermediate Camogie final between English and Crossmaglen to a replay. So, fair play there for holding their nerve so well in the circumstances.
And I went with Faker Gale for Bert again, a bit like Nell's on Mal's choice. Just the significance of the score. It was the winner in the Ulster final against Lavis. So that's my Score of the Week. I went with Keelan Graffin for Moneyglass as my unsung hero of the week. I think Jerome Quinn had a post out about her that she's only 15 years of age. So superb young talent coming through the ranks there in Moneyglass, and she's my unsung hero. Now yours is Mark McGonigal from Clare.
Yeah, probably a player who doesn't have the. I suppose he wouldn't have the national headlines, but he always plays really well for Clare. Anytime I see him, and he scored 8 points against Dona. He's a really excellent club player and so consistent. So I thought I'd give him a mention.
And Mal, your unsung hero, Cathal O'Meara from Sleacht Néill.
Yeah, one of the main things that Sleacht Néill have done is they've always put in a minor player every year. Cathal is that man this year. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago just at the bus stop, and he was really looking forward to this game and knew the challenge that was coming ahead. But to go in and play midfield in a team that's such a high achieving team says a lot. And for somebody so young, he was in the wars a couple of times, but he won a couple of vital possessions. And again, his older brother Rory and sister Clena, they would have obviously played at a high level as well. But a minor player playing in an Ulster semi-final, it was a wee bit like Shane McGuigan did in 2015 against Neil McManus, and Cahill's the latest young gun to step into the Sleacht Néill team.
Yeah, brilliant story, Mal, for a young fella coming in like that. That's all, folks, for our roundup. We'll be back on Thursday, and we'll have a preview pod. Mal has spoke to John McEntee this week, and we're looking ahead to the Ulster semi-finals that are coming up on Saturday and Sunday. So a big weekend, Mal, and I'm sure John and yourself are looking forward to it.
Yeah, he spoke a wee bit about actually playing his first ever Ulster game against Byrne and the breakthrough of Crossmaglen, which you would need a Netflix documentary on its own to talk about Crossmaglen, and not just 10 minutes. So, and obviously the fact that John would have been heavily involved in trying to beat Scottstown and very nearly did. So a great insight, and thanks a million to John for his time, and hopefully it gives the listeners a good insight as to why this competition is so special.
So that's Thursday's show. Make sure everybody to tune in then, and then we'll be back next Monday again with another roundup. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Mal and Nell on all our interviews, and we'll be back on Thursday and we'll speak to everybody then.
Thank you, Sean.